You want a method that will make an avoidant chase, think, wonder, and come back. Because you're tired of feeling like your love is always on trial. You're tired of the hot and cold, the silence that punches you in the chest, the sudden warmth that gives you hope and then disappears again. So I'm going to give you the truth in the simplest, most powerful form. The one method that changes everything is not about dominating their mind. It is about dominating yours first. Because right now, their behavior has too much access to your nervous system. A delayed reply can steal your peace. A vague message can light up your imagination. A cold tone can trigger hours of self-doubt. That is not because you are weak. It is because you have been trained by inconsistency to treat love like a threat you must manage. As long as your mind is living on high alert for their next move, you are handing them the power to set the pace of your emotions. Dominating your mind begins in the smallest moment, the exact second you feel the trigger. The instant you realize they're pulling away, your chest tightens, your thoughts race, your hands itch to grab your phone. That is your old pattern calling you back. This time you pause, you breathe, you name what you feel without judging it. I feel anxious. I feel rejected. I feel scared. Then you add the sentence that changes your life. This feeling is real, but it is not a command. You stop reacting as if a relationship emergency requires immediate surrender of your self-respect. You stop texting to calm your panic. You stop explaining yourself into exhaustion. You stop performing softness so they won't run. You let the discomfort sit there because you are building a new kind of safety, the safety that comes from knowing you can feel the ache and still stay with yourself. This is emotional discipline, not emotional shutdown. You are not pretending you don't care. You are not becoming cruel. You are simply refusing to abandon yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. You learn to regulate your nervous system with your own tools, a walk, a breath, a journal, a reset, a conversation with someone who actually shows up. You stop making their attention your medicine. You become your own steady place. Then you stop outsourcing your worth. You stop asking their affection to confirm you're lovable. You stop needing their apology to validate your pain. You stop waiting for their clarity to give you permission to move forward. Your value is not a debate. Your love is not a performance you must perfect. When your mind truly understands that your energy shifts, you become calmer, less reactive, less available for chaos. Next, you anchor your mind in standards that do not bend for fear. You clarify your needs once. I need communication. I need consistency. I need respect. You don't say it with threats, you say it with truth. And then you let your behavior support your words. You don't repeat yourself into significance. You step back when your needs are ignored. You step forward only when effort is real. This is where your mind stops begging and starts leading. And yes, this will feel terrifying at first. The old you equated love with overgiving. The old you believed that if you didn't chase, you would lose them. But ask yourself, did chasing ever create safety? Or did it just create exhaustion? When you dominate your mind, you stop confusing anxiety with love. You stop calling breadcrumbs hope. You stop shrinking your needs into silence. The deepest part of this method is becoming willing to lose them rather than lose yourself. That decision is not loud. It is quiet and fierce. It shows up when they disappear and you don't chase. When they return with half effort and you don't fold. When they test your boundary and you don't flinch. You are no longer the guaranteed emotional supply. You are a person with a spine, a life, a future. Then you build a world that does not revolve around their moods. You reconnect with friends. You protect your sleep. You move your body. You set goals. You invest in the parts of you that were neglected while you were waiting for crumbs of closeness. Your calendar fills with a life that belongs to you. Your mind has new things to focus on. Your heart has new places to breathe. When your life is full, your mind becomes harder to manipulate. The push-pull dynamic needs your anxiety to survive. It needs your constant availability. It needs your fear of abandonment as fuel. But when you are grounded, regulated, and committed to your own peace, the pattern starts to collapse. They may feel it as curiosity. They may feel it as ego discomfort. They may feel it as the sudden urge to reach out. But whatever they feel, you are no longer controlled by it. This is not revenge. This is not a game. This is self-respect becoming your default setting. You are not trying to break someone's defenses. You are trying to stop your heart from breaking in the same place again. You dominate your mind by choosing peace over panic, boundaries over bargaining, dignity over desperation. And in that shift, you become the version of yourself that can love deeply without losing yourself, the version that no longer waits to be chosen. Because you have already chosen you. You want to stop chasing, stop explaining, stop performing for clarity. And I need you to understand why this is not just a cute tip. It is a survival move for your heart. Because every time you chase an avoidance distance, you are unknowingly teaching them a rule that hurts you. You are teaching them that your anxiety will always show up to cover the cost of their inconsistency. You are teaching them that silence will be rewarded with your extra effort. And you are teaching your own nervous system that love requires you to overfunction until you're exhausted. Look at the pattern with brutal honesty. When they pull away, you panic. When you panic, you reach. When you reach, they feel pressure. When they feel pressure, they pull away further. And before you know it, you are sprinting in circles trying to make someone feel safe by making yourself unsafe. That is not love. That is a loop. And the loop only survives because you keep feeding it. The method is simple but emotionally hard. You stop chasing. You stop sending the second message to fix the discomfort the first one created. You stop writing paragraphs that try to make your pain palatable. You stop explaining your needs like you're asking permission to exist. Because the truth is, the more you explain yourself to someone who is determined not to show up, the more you slowly talk yourself out of your own worth. You have to realize something. Clarity is not something you beg for. It is something you observe. Consistency is not something you negotiate into existence. It is something you either receive or you don't. When someone is capable of healthy connection, one calm conversation is enough. They hear you. They adjust. They show up. When someone is not capable, 10 more conversations will not create a personality transplant. It will only create a version of you that feels smaller and more desperate. So you stop performing. You stop trying to be the cool one who never needs reassurance. You stop being the understanding one who accepts emotional crumbs with a smile. You stop being the one who carries the relationship on your back while calling it patience. You decide that your peace is not an optional luxury. It is a requirement. This is where your silence becomes powerful, not because you are punishing them, but because you are protecting you. Their distance no longer triggers your chase. Their mixed signals no longer pull you into a debate. You let their actions speak. You let the pattern reveal itself without you trying to rescue it. And here's the part that will change your life if you let it. You do not need to prove your value to someone who benefits from you doubting it. You do not need to audition for love. The moment you start seeing yourself as the prize you have been trying to convince them you are, everything shifts. You will feel the urge to break your own boundary. You will feel the itch to send that just checking in message. You will feel the fear that if you don't chase, you will lose them. But ask yourself this: what exactly are you trying to keep? A connection that only survives when you abandon your dignity. A relationship where your nervous system is constantly bracing for withdrawal. A love that demands you shrink your needs so they don't feel uncomfortable. Stop confusing your anxiety with proof of love. Anxiety is not romance. It is your body trying to tell you something is unstable. And when you keep chasing instability, you normalize it. Let your calm be your boundary. Let your absence be your answer. Let your life continue even when they pause. This is how you reclaim power without becoming cold. You don't have to play games. You don't have to pretend you don't care. You simply refuse to be pulled into a cycle where your worth is measured by how hard you can chase someone who keeps leaving you emotionally behind. The more you stop performing, the more you start receiving information. You start noticing who only shows up when they're lonely. You start noticing who vanishes when you ask for basic respect. You start noticing who wants access to your warmth, but refuses the responsibility of caring for your heart. And when you see it, you don't argue with it. You don't write an essay about it. You don't explain your reality into the ground. You adjust your access. You protect your energy. You keep your standards steady. This is the truth people avoid because it's painful. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is not another conversation. It's your behavior. It's the way you stop showing up for inconsistency. It's the way you stop rewarding distance with devotion. It's the way you let someone experience the natural consequence of not meeting your needs. If they step up, you will see it in effort, not promises. If they don't, you will see it in patterns, not excuses. Either way, you win because you are no longer sacrificing your mental health to keep a connection that only survives when you overgive. You are not here to be someone's emotional safety net while they treat you like an option. You are not here to be the person who makes everything easy for someone who won't do the inner work to meet you. You are not here to build a stable relationship with someone who is addicted to emotional escape. So stop chasing. Stop explaining. Stop performing for clarity. Not because you are trying to dominate them, because you are finally choosing to protect the part of you that has been bleeding quietly for too long. And when you live like that, when your words are clean and your actions are consistent, when your boundaries are calm and your self-respect is non-negotiable, you will notice something beautiful. You will no longer need to convince anyone to value you. The right people will feel your standards and rise to meet them, and the wrong people will remove themselves, and in both outcomes, your peace remains yours. You keep thinking that the way to change this dynamic is to find the perfect words, the perfect tone, the perfect timing, the message that finally makes an avoidant understand you, stay with you, choose you. But here's the truth that will give you your power back. Your needs are not an argument you must win. They are a reality you must honor. The method that shifts the entire balance is simple. You say what you need once, clearly and calmly, and then you let your boundaries do what your begging never could. Because when you repeat yourself over and over, you are not being loving, you are training someone to delay respect. You are teaching them that your discomfort is flexible, that your limits can be negotiated down, that your "I can't do this anymore" doesn't really mean anything. Every extra paragraph you send after they ignore your first one becomes an invitation to keep ignoring you. Every emotional speech you give after their silence becomes a cushion that protects them from the consequences of their own pattern. So start with clarity, not performance. Get brutally honest about the need you've been trying to explain into existence. Maybe it's communication. Maybe it's consistency. Maybe it's basic emotional presence instead of vanishing whenever things get real. Whatever it is, you say it like a person who knows their worth, not like a person auditioning for love. You can say, "I need regular communication. I don't do disappearing acts. If you need space, say so. If you can't offer that, I will step back." That sentence is clean. That sentence is mature. That sentence respects your heart without attacking theirs. Then you do the part that most people are too scared to do. You stop trying to make your words carry the whole relationship. You let your actions become the proof. If they disappear again after you've said that, you do not chase them into the silence. You do not send the just checking in text that disguises anxiety as politeness. You do not rescue the connection from the consequences of their behavior. You step back quietly, cleanly, without drama. Because boundaries are not what you say when you're emotional. They are what you live when you're calm. This is exactly where your nervous system will fight you. Your brain will scream, "If I don't explain again, they'll think I don't care." Your heart will whisper, "Maybe I wasn't clear enough." Your anxiety will beg you to fix the discomfort by reaching out. But that urge is old conditioning, not wisdom. Someone who cares about you does not need you to say the same need 5 different ways. Someone who respects you doesn't require you to bleed before they listen. Let your boundary be simple. Access to you changes when behavior doesn't change. That might mean you stop being instantly available. That might mean you stop accepting last-minute plans designed to test if you're still on standby. That might mean you pause emotional intimacy until consistency returns. And if the pattern is persistent, it might mean you walk away fully. Not as punishment, as protection. Here's why this approach is so powerful in avoidant dynamics, because it removes the safety net of your overfunctioning. Avoidant patterns often survive on the other person's anxiety. Your chasing becomes the oxygen that keeps the push-pull alive. When you stop repeating yourself, you stop cushioning. You remove the unspoken guarantee that they can retreat and still have you waiting in the same spot with the same open door. And I need you to hear this clearly. You do not need to earn the right to have needs. Your needs are not an inconvenience. They are a map of what keeps you emotionally safe. If someone treats that map like a debate, if they act like your request for basic communication is too much, that is information. You don't argue with information. You adjust your life around it. This also protects your self-respect. Every time you repeat yourself to someone who does not change, you slowly start doubting your own reality. You start shrinking the need. You start bargaining with the bare minimum. You start saying, maybe I can live with less. And that is how people end up in relationships that feel like hunger. Not because they don't love deeply, but because they keep offering loyalty where there is no stability. So make this identity shift from persuader to decider. You are not here to persuade someone to treat you well. You are here to decide what you will participate in. You are not here to convince someone that consistency matters. You are here to live as someone for whom consistency is the baseline. The moment you embody that, the energy changes. If they step up, you will see it in behavior, not promises, not emotional speeches, not nostalgia, not midnight check-ins that evaporate by morning. You will see it in steady communication, honest effort, and a willingness to repair without disappearing. If they don't step up, you will see that too, and your boundary will save you months, even years, of circular pain. This is not about being harsh. This is about being congruent. You can be kind and still be firm. You can love someone and still refuse their pattern. You can miss them and still protect your peace. The most powerful statement you can ever make in an avoidant dynamic is not a perfect sentence. It is the moment you stop negotiating your worth and start living like it. You are going to feel a little scared when you hear this, because it asks you to stop surviving on hope and start living in truth. The real shift, the one that changes everything with an avoidant, is not a clever text, not a perfect strategy, not a new way to explain your pain. It is this internal decision: I would rather lose you than lose myself again. Because right now, if you're honest, your biggest fear is not the relationship ending. Your biggest fear is facing what you sacrificed to keep it alive. You sacrificed your peace, your dignity, your sleep, your appetite, your confidence. You turned yourself into a version that was easier to keep, quieter, more understanding, more flexible, less needy, less emotional. And you called it love, but deep down you know it was fear. Fear that if you were fully you, they would leave. Fear that if you asked for consistency, you would be labeled too much. Fear that if you held a boundary, you would lose the only connection you were still clinging to. This is how you get trapped in the most painful paradox of all. You're desperate to be chosen by someone who keeps pulling away. So you keep choosing against yourself. You soften your standards. You swallow your truth. You apologize for having needs. You accept emotional crumbs and try to convince your heart it's a meal, and your nervous system learns a dangerous lesson. Love equals self-abandonment. You can't build a stable connection on self-abandonment. You can only build a long, slow heartbreak. Becoming willing to lose them is not a dramatic exit. It is a quiet reclaiming your identity. It is you finally understanding that your life is not a hostage situation where their fears set your emotional rules. It is you deciding that you will not keep shrinking your heart to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. This decision shows up in the smallest moments. The moment they go quiet and your mind wants to panic, text, you stop. The moment they give you a half apology that doesn't include change, you don't rush into forgiveness. The moment they return after distance with a casual, hey, and expect instant access to your warmth. You don't fold, you don't punish, you don't beg. You simply hold your standard. You become the person who does not trade peace for attention. You might be thinking, if I do this, I will lose them. And maybe you will. But here is the question you have not asked yourself enough. What exactly are you keeping if the price is losing yourself? What are you winning if your reward is constant anxiety, constant confusion, constant self-doubt? What are you protecting If you are the one who keeps getting emotionally bruised, just so a connection can continue in a half-alive state. People who are avoidant often live with a hidden assumption that you will always stay closer to fear than to your self-respect, that you will always choose the relationship over your dignity, that you will always keep the door cracked no matter how many times they walk away and return like nothing happened. They might not say this out loud, but the dynamic teaches it, your chasing teaches it, your over-forgiving teaches it, your willingness to accept less teaches it. So when you become willing to lose them, you are not just setting a boundary, you are breaking an entire psychological contract that was never fair to you. This is why this shift feels so powerful in their nervous system, because it removes the guarantee that has been keeping their pattern comfortable. Your guaranteed availability, your guaranteed forgiveness, your guaranteed emotional labor, your guaranteed return after every withdrawal. When that guarantee disappears, not with drama, but with quiet certainty, the whole push-pull system starts to wobble. This is not you trying to scare them into loving you. This is you refusing to be controlled by the fear of being left. And the irony is, this is often the moment they start to see you clearly. Not because you suddenly became more lovable, you always were, but because you stopped being predictable in the way that allowed them to take you for granted. You stopped being the person who would always absorb the cost of their fear. You become the person who can love deeply and still leave if the love is unsafe. That is the kind of presence that demands respect. This is also the moment your own self-respects to heal, because every time you choose your dignity over a breadcrumb, you teach your inner world that you are safe with you. Every time you don't chase a disappearing act, you prove to your nervous system that you don't need to beg for stability. Every time you let silence be silence instead of a puzzle you must solve, you reclaim energy that has been stuck in survival mode. You start to feel stronger. Quietly. Then all at once, your standards stop sounding like dreams and start sounding like decisions. You stop hoping for consistency and start requiring it. You stop confusing chemistry with safety. You stop calling anxiety love. And in that space, you realize something life-changing. This fear of losing them was never really about them. It was about what you believed their presence said about your worth. That if they stayed, you were lovable, and if they left, you were not. But that is a lie that emotionally unavailable people accidentally train you to believe. Your worth is not a referendum held by someone who is terrified of intimacy. Your value is not measured by how long you can tolerate being half-loved. Your love is not supposed to be a lesson in self-erasure. So when you say, I would rather lose you than lose myself again, you are not being cold, you are becoming honest. Honest about what your heart needs to survive. Honest about what your body can no longer tolerate. Honest about the fact that loving someone should not cost you your identity. This is why this method is so deeply transformative, because it changes your energy at the root. You stop negotiating your needs. You stop being easy to access without effort. You stop being the emotional safety net for someone who keeps refusing to grow. You become calm, not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself enough to stop living in emotional chaos. And let this land in your chest. Whether they rise to meet you or not, you win. If they rise, you get a chance at something healthier. If they don't, you get yourself back, and you will never again underestimate how powerful it is to be the person who chooses self-respect over emotional survival. You build a life so full that you're no longer easy to control. And this is not a cute line. This is a complete identity shift, because the truth is, the push-pull dynamic only works when your world is small enough for them to become your emotional sun, when your day is empty enough for their text to feel like oxygen, when your schedule is flexible enough for their inconsistency to feel like something you must adapt to, and when your self-worth is hungry enough that a breadcrumb can feel like a feast. Right now, if you're honest, you have been living with your heart on standby. You've been making space for someone who keeps making you wait. You've been rearranging your around their replies. You've been checking your phone like your peace is trapped inside a notification. And that is exactly how control sneaks in, not because they are some evil mastermind, but but because your life unconsciously made them the center of your emotional gravity. A full life changes that gravity. It puts your center back inside you. And it starts with something simple but uncomfortable. You begin to notice where you have paused your own growth to keep access to them. You stopped going out as much. You stopped making plans that would make you unavailable. You stopped dreaming as loudly. You stopped investing in the version of you that was alive before this hot and cold started consuming your nervous system. And maybe you didn't do it intentionally. Maybe it happened slowly, one canceled plan at a time, one weekend spent waiting at home, just in case they reached out, one goal delayed because you were emotionally exhausted. But the result is the same. Your world got smaller and their influence got bigger. So the method here is not to look busy, to trigger their curiosity. It's to actually become busy living a life that belongs to you. You reclaim your time first, because time is the currency you've been spending trying to buy security from someone who only offers uncertainty. You take back the hours you used to waste overanalyzing their tone, their online status, their inconsistency, and you place those hours into things that build you, not break you. You move your body, you fix your sleep, you eat like someone who deserves care, you get sunlight, you do the small routines that stabilize your nervous system. Because when your body feels stronger, your mind stops treating their attention like survival. Then you rebuild your social world, because isolation is a hidden weapon in avoidant dynamics, not always intentional, but always real. You start reconnecting with friends, family, safe people who don't vanish when you have needs. You let yourself be seen outside this one relationship story. You sit in rooms where laughter exists without conditions, where love is not something you earn by shrinking, where consistency is normal, and that alone begins to rewire your standards, because nothing exposes dysfunction faster than remembering what healthy connection feels like. You also reignite your purpose, because a heart without purpose becomes too easily hypnotized by the chaos of someone else. You set goals that have nothing to do with them. You create a future your nervous system can look forward to, a skill, a project, a business idea, a course, a routine, something that gives you momentum. Because momentum is the opposite of obsession. The more your life moves forward, the less your mind circles the same painful questions. Why did they pull away? What did I do wrong? Will they come back? And here's the key psychological truth. When your life is full, your standards rise without you forcing them. You stop tolerating last-minute half-effort because your time becomes valuable again. You stop replying to midnight breadcrumbs with full access to your warmth because your mornings are rooted in your own goals. You stop sacrificing your weekends for someone who can't communicate because your weekends now belong to a life you actually enjoy. This is where the control breaks, because the old version of you was easy to predict, easy to pull, easy to soothe with a crumb, not because you were weak, but because you loved deeply and your world had too much space for waiting. The new version of you is more complex, more grounded, more self-led, and the avoidant system is not used to that. They are used to being the breaking point in someone's day, the center of someone's emotional story, the one who can disappear and still be chased. But when your life is full, their disappearance meets something they didn't expect, your continued forward motion. And that forward motion is what makes you feel powerful again. You are not doing this to punish them. You are doing this to protect you. You are not trying to make them jealous. You're trying to make your own life breathe again. You are not trying to win the game. You are ending the game by building a life so rich that you no longer need to play. A full life also gives you emotional leverage in the healthiest way. Because now, when they do reach out, you're not starving, you're not desperate, you're not waiting with your whole heart on the floor. You can respond from clarity, not anxiety. You can ask yourself real questions. Does this energy match my peace? Does this effort match my standards? Does this person add to my life or destabilize it? You become someone who is deciding, not begging. And this is when they often start to think about you differently. Not because you changed into a colder person, but because you changed into a person who is no longer easily controlled by inconsistency. You stopped being fueled by hope alone and started being fueled by self-respect. You stopped making your love a free resource and started making it something that requires emotional responsibility to access. You will feel the temptation to shrink back into old patterns sometimes, especially when loneliness hits, especially when they send a warm message that reminds you of what you always wished this could be. But this is where you stay loyal to the new life you're building. You remind yourself that peace is not boring, stability is not dull, consistency is not a luxury. It's the baseline you deserve. Building a full life is how you stop being easy to manipulate, not because you become guarded, but because you become anchored. Your joy is no longer held hostage by someone who can't regulate closeness. Your sanity is no longer dependent on whether they are in a warm phase or a cold phase. Your worth is no longer waiting for their approval to feel real. And if they chase you after that shift, you'll recognize the truth. They're not chasing the old version of you who was always available. They're chasing the new version of you who finally chose herself. The version who is no longer begging for love because she is too busy building a life that actually loves her back.